It's just the way that things are installed here. Black is bad and white is good. Now that from a young age has always been the case.
I believe it's taught and nobody's born a racist.
The history's there for everyone to see. It's happened, it's there, it's fact. There's certain things in history that maybe people don't want us to know.
I was actually in the academy and one of the supporters who was abusing one of the players from the other team. Sadly, it was one of our supporters that was abusing one of the players in the Harlequins Rugby League team. And our assistant coach was mixed race and he ended up stepping down because nothing got done. He said, I can't support that when I'm here and players from the other team are being racially abused, and I'm a black man myself. I'm not going to stand for it. To lose valuable coaches, valuable players to our sport for being abused for the colour of your skin is something that just can't happen.
My experiences have come with my teammates. I've had a few altercations. It's quite saddening. It's not happened for a few years. Back in the past, I probably wasn't strong enough to deal with it in a certain way, or I didn't want to confront it because my job meant so much to me and I didn't want to be seen as I was creating conflict. But now I think in the last few years, my mindset, I'd probably approach it in a different way.
I've had racial comments straight to me. I've had, incidents where I've had to take it further to the police because there was racial threats. I've had situations where it was to belittle me in front of groups. I've become in myself now where if someone makes a racial comment to me, it's just a comment. We've been in games before where there's been racial abuse and the game has been stopped, the referee has been brought to their attention, they've wrote a report, sent it to the RFL and nothing. This isn't a stab at the RFL, this isn't a stab at the system, this is just where we are at. Nothing come of it. A system that doesn't really practice what they're preaching, it's kind of flawed. It is a flawed system, so that's where I say, yeah, Rugby League probably has an issue.
I'd been picked, I'd played for Yorkshire, it was back when they used to have the camps, and I'd been selected for national camp, and my coach was black at the time, and I was still very young. I was the only black guy out of 40 players that got selected for the national camp, trying to make the England team, and he must have experienced it whilst he was playing himself. He was an ex-player, ex-professional, and he was like, I don't know if you know it or not, but you're going to have to work twice as hard as anyone at that camp, because I don't know if you know it or not, but you're black and they don't want you in that England team. And that's what he told me when I was 14 years old. He goes, they don't want you there. You're going to have to be 10 times better than anybody else that's on that field to get in that side. And it's something that stuck with me, and that's probably his experiences that he's passing on to me. And obviously I've had similar things from my parents coming up, so yeah, it is a generational thing. It's something that's handed down, and then once it's handed down from someone who's important to you like that, it sticks with you.
I always got labelled as I was lazy and I was lethargic when I was on the pitch when I was a kid, and I don't ever feel that was the case. I always tried really, really hard, but I know that there's, within sport, rugby league, and I know it's happened in football because it's come out in the press that there's a stigma against young black kids or mixed race kids, how they carry themselves. I had that stigma attached to me, and then when people actually sit down and talk to me and realise what I'm all about, then that was completely wrong.
Stereotype definitely plays a part. I know a lot of the times that if I wasn't in the position I'm in, as being a Super League player, I'd be treated a lot different around the town by a lot of people. A lot of people see me as a Super League player, not just Michael, whereas if I wasn't a Super League player, I'd just be another black guy. The amount of times I've heard, oh, you're not bad for a black lad, is unbelievable. People don't think that's racist, but to me, I find that very offensive. What about my brother, who's not a Super League player? What makes him, why, because I play rugby, does it make me not bad for a black lad? That's the kind of stuff that I've experienced in my life, and the stuff that I can't accept anymore.
There's a place in Leeds called Chapeltown, and while I don't feel too oppressed, I want to speak for that person in Chapeltown who just can't get that job, who just can't seem to get something right, because once he says, oh, I'm a black male from Chapeltown, there's an instant stereotype over his head, and that for me is wrong. It's plain and simple wrong. There's no fair opportunity. He goes to that interview knowing he's not getting that job.
The more black faces you see in these high positions, the more hopeful you are that you can succeed and that you can be successful, and that's the equality that we're talking about and striving to get. Some of the backlash for clubs supporting the Black Lives Matter movement, so a lot of clubs put out statements as soon as it had happened to say they stood with it. I'm okay, I'm putting out statements. I remember Warrington released a shirt, and all you have to do is click on that and just scroll through the comments underneath, and yeah, they're disgusting, to be fair. It brought a lot of people's true colours to light. And to be honest, I wasn't surprised.
I think the game would be miles better without them people in it. I genuinely would. And if you lose ratings, you lose revenue, you lose sponsorship, I'm okay with that. This movement could be, you know, here today, gone tomorrow. But the ideology and the fight for an injustice needs to stay.
My kids are coming up to 2-year-olds now. I'd like to think that when they grow up, that it won't be the same as what it is now. If we do as much as we can teaching the next generation the right things, hopefully society will be a totally different place in 10, 15 years.
Powerful, sad, moving words, and we'll get reaction to that shortly. We felt it was important to go to the RFL and get their take, having watched that piece. And this is what they had to say to us this morning. They said it's a thought-provoking piece, and we thank Sky and the three players, Ash, Michael and Jordan for it. All our responses in recent weeks and months have attempted to strike a balance to reaffirm Rugby League's desire to play its part in this conversation and our abhorrence of racism or prejudice in any form, while acknowledging that as a sport we have work to do and that actions must speak louder than words. We shared a refreshed vision this week and committed to publishing actions and targets on October 1st. The game as a whole, including Super League, Rugby League Cares and Rugby League World Cup 2021, are committed to this. In response, they say, to Ashton Golding's specific reference, we would strongly refute any suggestion that we do not treat allegations of racial abuse in the game seriously. In the case to which we think he is referring, following a community game fixture last year, an investigator was appointed, but there were inconsistencies in the evidence provided, and it was impossible to prove the language used. Well, that's the statement from the RFL in response to the piece with Ash, Michael and Jordan. Having watched that for the first time, Martin Offiah, your reaction to three young black men, three young black players in 2020 with those stories?
It was, you know, if I have one word to sum up how I was feeling, you know, while watching that, and that was sad. Just overwhelming feeling of sadness came over me just because, you know, that was something that was in my youth, something that I experienced. You know, I just related to Michael talking about, you know, being a black man and having to feel, you know, because they say perception is your reality, and feeling you have to do that, and to see me watching those relative young men, you know, speak like that, you know, is the reason why we're wearing this badge. It's not political, you know, it's just about people, it's about feelings, it's about all lives matter. You know, I know that people can feel that the Black Lives Matter thing can be seen by some people as divisive, but it's not. You know, if I was here, you know, we both, you know, done a lot of work for the Joining Jack charity, you know, and we love Jack Johnson and what his parents are trying to do for him. But if we were here talking about that, it wouldn't mean we're against cancer or we're against, you know, other diseases or heart disease or anything, you know. They're just shedding a light on things, and hopefully that will help everything improve, you know. I think that's what it is, you know. People are just expressing their sadness, you know. But, you know, if I want to put a positive note on it, then I would say, you know, what these guys experience is probably far less than what I experience, and probably, you know, what I experience is far less than what some of the people, you know, Billy Boston, you know, had to adhere to and live by, you know, when he was playing. So I do believe the world now is a far better place than it was 20 years ago, and I believe in 20 years from now, the world would be an even better place. So that progression is what raises up my heart and lifts me. But as I say, watching those guys speak just brought overwhelming sadness to me. Sadness
to be talking about it in 2020. Take us back to the late 1980s when you began your professional rugby league career and what you were faced.
Well, you're going to try and get me sort of, you know, just weeping back here, because, you know, what I experienced was, you know, I wouldn't want anyone to experience that. You know, I have two young sons now, you know, both involved in sport, rugby and football, you know, and I wouldn't want them to experience what I had to experience, you know, the wholesale abuse that I experienced while I playing, you know, primarily rugby league, and, you know, it just wasn't good, you know, and, you know, it's tough to even go back and think about the level of abuse that I had. But, you know, it's what fired me. It's what fired me, you know. You know, I have to think to myself and think positively about it. You know, it's what made me what I am today, you know, going through that. It's not what happens to you in your life. I believe it's, you know, how you react to the things that happen to you. And, you know, being in those intense environments, playing, you know, at away grounds and people abusing me, you know, I just thought to myself, I'm going to score today. I'm going to make sure I'm going to score. And that's the way that I fought back. You know, I didn't fight back with a, you know, Eric Cantona kung fu kick. I thought to myself, you know, the way I'm going to fight back against people who are abusing me is to be the best that I can be. And, you know, and now I can only have thanks for them, because maybe without them, you know, I wouldn't have scored that try at Wembley. I wouldn't have, you know, scored 501 tries. I wouldn't be in the Hall of Fames that I am in, because I didn't let it crush me, you know. I rose above it, and as I say, I use it as fuel.
You talk about this all being a journey that the world is on, and we're a better place now, perhaps, thankfully, in many ways than we were 20 years ago, 200 years ago. How do we get to where we need to go, Martin? Help me out here. Tell me where we need to go and how I can help, how we can help.
You're just doing the right thing now, us having these conversations. You know, Sky Sports doing what they do. You know, it's all a progression. You know, I believe that, as I said earlier, the world is going to be a better place. And, you know, and history will anyone who's doing anything, you know, be fully aware, history will judge you, you know, and we have got to learn about our past, you know, the good and the bad. You know, I've never been one for banning statues or expunging the past, because, you know, as I said earlier, you know, the past is what made me the person I am today. So, you know, you can't look back on the past with so much negativity. You have to have positivity in it, and it's about education, it's about conversation, it's about asking difficult questions and not being defensive, you know, just being open and being able to listen to people's points of view to try and bridge that communication gap, which is tough. You know, a lot of people haven't experienced what I've experienced in my life, and, you know, and there have been times where I have not felt confident enough to express that. And we are in a pretty extraordinary time now, you know, empty stadiums, COVID-19. We're realizing now what is important in life. We're able to pause, you know. Normally through life, we haven't got time. You know, we're charging on. We're trying to pay those next bills. We're trying to achieve things. But COVID-19 has given us that time to pause. And, you know, what happened to George Floyd, you know, I think the whole nature of the world as it is now is allowing us to think to ourselves, you know, maybe, you know, what's been happening to these young lads is not right, and maybe we should do something about it, and we should take everything along, you know, LGBTQ lives, you know, all lives of children, of all marginalised people. It's not just black people, but, you know, Black Lives Matter is a symbol, and it's a feeling. It's not political. It shouldn't be taken as political or divisive or people trying to advance a certain agenda. It's just about people living great lives, you know, living the lives that we all want to live for our own, you know, children and family, and just spreading that positivity. And I don't see how you can not get on board with that feeling, and you know, it's great what the Rugby Football League are doing. You know, I commend their history, and I celebrate the good things that they have done. You know, I was coached by Ellery Hanley, you know, the first national black coach to coach a national side in England. You know, what we've done, you know, with Clive Sullivan being the first black captain of a national side. Those things should be celebrated, but we should also learn about the dark things that have happened and bring those into light and learn from them. And, you know, if people have that sense of, you know, opinion, then talk to them, understand why they have that. Let's learn and grow, you know. It does sound a bit hippified, but, you know, it's true. And I think being in this time of COVID now has got us to think about that. And, you know, I think only good things can come of it.